In the winter of 1763, Canada was not at peace, not truly, and not newly born. The first real war in Canadian history did not begin with Confederation. It did not begin with redcoats marching or flags being raised. It began long before Canada existed, and it did not end when treaties were signed. Because the war that shaped this land was not fought for a country. It was fought over control, survival, and systems that refused to coexist. This is not a story about a forgotten battle. It is a story about why peace in Canada was never simple and never neutral. Welcome to Shadows of the War. This channel tells the quiet, uncomfortable histories, the wars beneath the nation, the decisions that shaped outcomes long before borders were drawn. These are not stories of glory, they are stories of consequence. This isn't just about Indigenous resistance, it's about why Canada was never founded through unity. It's about why the first real war here was not declared but inevitable. Because from the moment Europeans arrived, two systems collided, and only one of them was built to replace the other. Long before the word Canada existed, this land was already organized. Not empty, not chaotic, not waiting. Indigenous nations governed territory through relationships, kinship, and responsibility. Land was not owned, it was stewarded. Power was shared, negotiated, renewed. European empires did not understand this system and, more importantly, did not want to. To France and Britain, land existed to be claimed, divided, extracted. Borders were lines, treaties were tools, and peace was temporary, only useful until expansion resumed. At first, survival forced cooperation. Fur trade alliances tied Indigenous nations and Europeans together. French settlements depended on Indigenous knowledge, transport, and diplomacy. Military balance required restraint, but systems under pressure always reveal their priorities. And as European populations grew, restraint disappeared. By the mid-1700s, the balance had shifted. British victory over France in North America removed the last reason for compromise. With France gone, Indigenous nations lost their leverage. British authorities assumed the war was over. They believed the land was now theirs by default. They were wrong, because Indigenous nations had not surrendered. They had not agreed to submission, and they had not accepted a future where their systems were erased. What followed was not rebellion, it was resistance to replacement. The British treated Indigenous alliances as temporary military contracts. Once the war ended, so did respect. Trade goods were restricted. Diplomatic gift-giving, a cornerstone of Indigenous relations, was dismissed as bribery. Fort garrisons replaced negotiation. This was not ignorance, it was a deliberate shift. British leadership believed discipline, control, and authority would succeed where cooperation once existed. Instead, it ignited the first true war on this land. In 1763, Indigenous nations across the Great Lakes region coordinated resistance, not through centralized command but through shared understanding. This was not chaos, it was strategy. Fort after fort fell through deception, patience, and precision. British supply lines collapsed, outposts vanished. This was not about revenge, it was about restoring balance, and for a moment it worked. The turning point came not with a single battle but with realization. British commanders finally understood they were not facing scattered uprisings, they were facing a system that could not be crushed quickly. Military force alone would fail, extermination would be too costly, occupation would stretch resources thin. So the British adjusted, not toward equality but toward control. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 was issued soon after. It recognized Indigenous land rights on paper. It restricted colonial expansion in theory. This is often framed as a gesture of fairness. It was not. It was damage control. The British state acknowledged Indigenous sovereignty only to manage it, to slow expansion until power could be consolidated, to prevent constant war, not injustice. Peace was now a policy, not a partnership. This marked the end of open conflict but the beginning of systemic warfare. Treaties replaced battles, administrators replaced soldiers, law replaced negotiation, but the objective remained the same. Land transfer, cultural erosion, eventual disappearance. The war did not end, it changed form. Throughout the 19th century, Indigenous resistance continued, often quietly. Communities negotiated, delayed, adapted. They signed treaties under pressure. They resisted relocation. They preserved identity where possible. The Canadian state inherited British systems and refined them. Residential schools, pass laws, land restrictions. None of these required open war, because the First War had already decided the rules. This is why calling later conflicts rebellions misses the truth. They were continuations. The Red River Resistance, the Northwest Resistance. They were not sudden disruptions. They were reminders that the war had never ended, only buried under policy. The outcome of the First Indigenous War in Canada was not victory or defeat. It was containment. Indigenous nations survived, but within imposed limits. Canada expanded but never fully reconciled. The systems never merged. One absorbed the other, and the cost was paid across generations. This war changed everything. It shaped Canada's borders, its laws, its identity. It explains why treaties are still debated, why land claims persist, why reconciliation remains unfinished. Because Canada was not founded after the war. It was founded because of it. The uncomfortable truth is this: Canada's first real war was not fought to create a nation. It was fought to control one. And its legacy is not history. It is structure. History often celebrates beginnings, but it is shaped by unresolved endings. If this story felt heavy, it should, because it never truly ended. If you want to understand Canada, start here. If there is another hidden war, forgotten decision, or silent turning point you want uncovered, tell us in the comments. If this story mattered, like the video. Subscribe to Shadows of the War, because some wars do not echo with gunfire, they echo with consequences.